Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is for Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today I'm going to be doing a try a chapter vlog for all of the 10 books that I am reading for SPFBO 9. So if you don't know by now, I am on Cassidy's team for SPFBO 9. She is one of the official judges for SPFBO, and that's so exciting. I'm so happy for her. And because I participated in SPFBO Cassidy's version last year for SPFBO 8, I got asked to be a part of the official team for SPFBO 9. And so I have 10 books from her 30 that I'm going to be reading over the next couple of months, so you will be seeing a ton of content for SPFBO. If you don't know what SPFBO is, I will link Cassidy's video about like explaining exactly what it is, as well as her introducing her entire team. But it is essentially the self-published fantasy blog off, and it is a bunch of self-published authors. In fact, there are 300 books that are submitted here, and of that, our team has 30 of them, and I'm reading 10 of them. So I thought, because I had no idea where to start, okay, like there are 10 good books that I was very interested in. Like we got to pick the ones that we were really interested in. So there are 10 books here and I was like, I don't know where to start. So we're gonna do a try a chapter. And I'm gonna read the first chapter of every single book and explain it to you. And we're going to be talking about it from an intrigue level of 1 to 10, rather than talking about the like writing style or the prose or anything. You can't really tell any of that from one chapter. So we're just gonna be talking about it in terms of intrigue level and how invested I am in the story after chapter 1 and how much I want to continue into future chapters. Before we do that though, I want to talk about all of the 10 books, and we're going to be talking about the synopsis pretty briefly. I don't do that during the vlog portion, so we'll talk about it here. The first one is Otter Still by D.N. Bryn. I love this cover. This is a beautiful, beautiful cover. And the synopsis says, Rubem of No Man's Land was content keeping to his wine, his pets, and his extensive collection of fishnets. Relatable, I guess. But since a sentient, fuel-producing parasite bonded to his brainstem, even morally depraved scientist and hardcore rebel for the 100 miles wants to ruthlessly dissect him. The parasite itself is no better, influencing his emotions and sassing him with its own memories as it slowly takes over his body. The only person that's offering to help Rubem is Tavish K. Fenley, a dashing and manipulative philanthropist whose mother's fuel company monopolizes their corrupt underwater city with an iron claw. Could be a little bit of like hate to love stuff, some Romeo and Juliet, forbidden love going on. Otter Still is a male-male fantasy novel with a class-crossing, slow-burn romance, murderous intrigue, and a Marvel's Venom-style parasite human friendship in an underwater steampunk city. That really sounds fascinating to me. So I'm excited about this. The second one is another queer fantasy romance. These may not be the order that I read the chapters in, but the order that I have them on my list here. This is another male-male fantasy romance. This is The Nightingale Prince by Zach Bell. The crown of a fae prince is a dangerous thing. Toby's boyfriend just kicked him to the curb, so when he inherits a decrepit mansion in the remote Aussie bush, he jumps at the chance for a break. He finds a charming little town full of big personalities and a handsome, mysterious gardener. But Toby will soon discover that everything he thought he knew is a lie. He's not even human. The fae are real, and he's one of them. So this sounds really interesting. It's queer. I'm definitely going to be trying to read this one in June during Pride Month. The next one also has a beautiful cover. This is Autumn Chaos by Elena Nickton. I might be pronouncing that name wrong. I do apologize. But this is another fantasy romance with witches, another like buzzword for me. A mystery of a monster on the rampage ignites the passionate love triangle between a witch and two warriors with the help of a mysterious cat. We love it. After 10 years of peaceful solitude, exiled mage turned village witch Lady Anonquin of Thorn has her life turned upside down when a half-dead warrior is dumped on her doorsteps. Soon she learns that no good deed goes unpunished in the Black Forest, not even if your friend is Leshy, the forest god himself. Expelled from her position as a court mage for her sharp tongue, Ina's had 10 years to learn to survive in a harsh environment. The forbidden healing she performs links her life energy with her unexpected guest, the captain of the guards, and Ren, her best friend, a traveler from lands so far away that many consider them a myth. Sounds wonderful, sounds delightful. We love a mysterious cat. Next up, we have The Fires of Time by Alexander Wyatt. This says, young mage Kaya has a list of questions she longs to ask her guardian Dwyn, who took her from her parents as a baby, allegedly to protect her from the Wooden King. Why can't she leave the imprisonment of the walls of Raftengrad? Why does he allow her friendship with Time, a ghost girl who clearly makes him uncomfortable? Why has he spent her entire life training her to fight with magic? And how did he know the oil mage who tried to kill her? That just has intrigue written all over it. It's all questions. The next one up we have is Beta by MT Zemi. This one was a little bit confusing because I thought originally it was a little bit more sci-fi leaning than fantasy. The cover definitely leans more sci-fi, but it is fantasy. It has some like superhero, supervillain type elements to it. Samantha Harbordson is not an apex. Seriously, she's completely ordinary with a totally normal family that just happens to be moving to the apex epicenter of the world, the man-made island city of New Delos. Although she thinks her lack of super apex abilities will keep her out of the limelight, it quickly becomes apparent that the city has different plans, sweeping Samantha up in a world of secret identities and superpowers where anyone, even those closest to her, might be an apex. Plagued by missing students, secret apex teams, and a mysterious man named Adrestus? Samantha searches for answers, causing secrets to unravel about her classmates, her family, and herself that drive her deeper into the secret world of the Apex. This sounds very much like Vicious or Vengeful, the duology by V. Schwab. Kind of a little bit like a Marvel superhero-y. I don't know, we'll see. Next up we have Lady of Ravensmere by Mary McKenna. In a richly imagined fantasy world against a backdrop of alliances and betrayals, a young girl grows to a woman. Ginevra Louvret, the 13-year-old daughter of the Earl of Allendale, travels to the north to be betrothed. Well-born and well-bred and well-trained, she would not embarrass a king. But no king awaits her. Instead, she will marry the new-made lord of a dilapidated castle. Can't speak today. Why am I a booktuber? A dilapidated castle threatened by war. Far from her family and the life that she knows, with little support, she must find a way to grow into the woman and lady of her new land that her husband needs. Brilliantly imagined fantasy, Lady of Ravensmere chronicles the beginning of Ginevra's journey. I could be saying that character's name wrong, we'll see. A journey that will change her and the world around her. We do love a political backdrop. We love alliances and betrayals and backstabbing and all of that. So I'm excited about this one. Next up, we have Speechless in Akhenaten. Could be saying that one wrong. Apologize. And that is by Debbie Inaku Haddad. Again, I apologize if I'm saying authors' names incorrectly. I will get better at this. 18-year-old Mila hasn't spoken in the 5 years since she became an Onra, a first-level Everfall witch. After failing the test to reclaim her voice and control her magic, her mentor sends Mila to Akhenaten, city of dust and bones, a dangerous desert town built in the massive ribcage of the extinct Leviathan. Mila must steal a magical staff capable of releasing her power from the sky-high lair of the Bone Master. Her only resources are the magical luminous elixirs of the cursed caverns where she grew up, and a band of unlikely allies. A quirky inventor, a giant ant rider, a healer, a librarian's assistant, a Tartool rider, and the chief playboy's son. But in the City of Bones, enemies and friends are not who they seem, and trusting the wrong person can be deadly. This one sounds like it could have like a found family aspect to it, which I am here for, really in any genre of book, but as we were talking about fantasy, we're gonna go with that. So this one is exciting, and I do know that there is at least one queer character in this book as well. Next up, we have The Sword of Mercy and Wrath, Swords of Dominion, Book 1 by NC Kusis. I'm really bad with names, so I'm so sorry. This book says, in a cathedral at the south of the Asterian Empire, young men and women are trained to be killers. The Order of the Golden Swords Inquisitors are feared for their brutality, masked as piety. Masters of blade, poison, and crossbow, their quarry is the god-cursed werewolf, whom they hunt with impunity to herald the return of their god. Betrayed by her monstrous father, Celine loses her left arm and nearly her life when she's saved by a traveling inquisitor. Scarred and broken, she swears vengeance on the cursed beast and joins the order. It takes all her will to overcome her limits, only for her violent past to drag her back into blood. With the fabric of the empire at stake, Celine must master her hatred, hone it to a sharp point, and then let it loose on her enemies. This one is advertised as a grimdark fantasy, which is definitely not a subgenre that is in my wheelhouse, but one that I am excited to get to. I definitely want to read more grimdarks. This one has an entire page worth of content warnings, and then at the bottom of the page it says, for more content warnings, go to the author's website, where there are more content warnings. Fortunately, there's nothing in there that is a personal trigger to me, so I should be okay. But that being said, this one definitely is outside of my wheelhouse, but one that I'm really wanting to stretch maybe step out of my comfort zone. Next up, we have Hearts Lost by Meredith Hart. I believe this is also a fantasy romance, so we are definitely living in our Fanro era right now. This one says, I'll do anything to free my sister from King Grathgor's court, even if it takes me to the land of monsters. In exchange for my sister's freedom, I have to enter the terrifying lands below and stop the monsters' attempt to bring down the barrier, keeping our two kingdoms separate. But stopping them ends up trapping me with a dangerous man named Alosorin? I don't know. We'll see. In a place where he calls the void. Alosorin. I think that's phonetically how it sounds. Claims those who enter the void's twisting forest and shifting paths rarely return. Still, I have an advantage those previous travelers did not. I can communicate with the shadow animals that terrify Alosorin. Alosorin? We're gonna have to figure out how to pronounce this dad's name. Perhaps the two of us can survive long enough to find our way out. As long as Alosorin doesn't discover the reason why we're both trapped here. Sounds mysterious, sounds intriguing. I'm here for a good rescue my sister plot. Lastly, we have Openumbra by N.R. Gravel. This cover is kind of fascinatingly creepy, not gonna lie. The Inlet battle has concluded. In its wake, a fleet bearing the departed travel across the Sequent Sea. What was thought to be a time of mourning converts into something worse. The clergy leader of the Vadimir has been abducted, leaving only a trace of blood. With a staunch response, Hironstad Castle is laid siege. After a swift victory, Cordix and his companions discover a ransom letter indicating their troubles aren't nearing an end, but have increased substantially. A journey west towards the lands of Har Mortok must be taken while a pressing urgency beckons that they leave the realm of Verdu. Each step towards their goal unravels a cumulative number of perils, each peril more drastic than the previous. Again, sounds intriguing, sounds fascinating, I'm here for it. But let's see how I did after reading the first chapter of all of these books. Hello. I'm not sure if this clip is going to work because I'm sitting in the lobby of my office and there's a lot going on today. So I don't know if this clip is going to work, but I did finish the first chapter of my first book, and that is Otter Still. I don't remember the author's name, I do apologize, but here is the cover. The chapter was long. I think it was like 14 pages, and it's done in first person, so that kind of levels up the intrigue a little bit because like the main character doesn't know what's going on, but there was like there's a little bit too much explanation, and like the parasite is already happening like in chapter 1. Like we are already introduced to the parasite. If I didn't already talk about this book, this is a fantasy that has been equated to Venom, which I liked that movie. I didn't love it, it's not my favorite, but I did like it. So like the intrigue level goes down a little bit because we're already introduced into this character, and it's like it's just from the start, but then we like drop little hints about the world, the different characters that like he's going to be working with or interacting with, but it doesn't give you a lot. So I think we're gonna go with a 7 out of 10 for intrigue level for this one. Alright, so you're probably going to see several clips right here in a row. Don't worry about it. The next book that we're going to be talking about is The Sword of Mercy and Wrath. I always get those two like mixed up, and I want to call it Wrath and Mercy. Don't ask why. So this was, I read the like prologue and then the chapter 1. The prologue was really like a textbook. Like, you wanted an info dump? Here is an actual info dump. It's literally a textbook. And while I love the fact that like we really just like dove into the world, it's dry because it's a textbook. This is still one that I am interested in, and is high up on my list. It is apparently a really grim, dark book, which I haven't read a lot of, which kind of makes me excited because who knows, maybe I will end up loving it. But at the end of the first chapter, it does introduce the other POV character, where like she is in the second POV. You can't see that. I don't know why I was going to do that. So I'm definitely still invested, and it makes me like want to continue on reading the next chapter, especially when you know that it's from her POV. So that's good. It gets points for like making me want to continue rather than being like, oh my god, thank god we are at the end of the chapter. So points for that. We're going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. We'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Okay. All right, on to the next book. This chapter was a roller coaster. I'm talking about Autumn Chaos. At their very beginning, I even texted the group and being like, this is not bad. I actually kind of like it. I'm loving the vibes. The atmosphere is really there, and it's like drawing me into the world. And it's very, you know, it's obviously very witchy. And then we kept going. And then we went a little bit more. And then we went a little bit more. One chapter is 5% of the book, which I guess mathematically kind of makes sense, but like it felt so long. The first chapter was 17 pages, and I know fantasy books have longer chapters. It's fine, but I'm not a long chapter girly. We don't like long chapters over here. So I'm still invested in these characters. We get like a lot. We had so much happen in the first chapter, which kind of gave me too much. Like we were a little too fast. We were a little bit too much. So I don't know, this one doesn't have me as intrigued as the other ones have. So I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 10. For intrigue level, I'm still going to be continuing it, obviously. I do not foresee, my goal is not to DNF books at this 1 chapter mark. I will be trying to give books at least 15 to 20% before DNFing something. Still going to be continuing it, but my intrigue level at this point is lower than it is for the other books. This is how you start a book. I am so intrigued. 10 out of 10. This is Beta by MCKENNA. This introduces our main character and kind of her family, or at least like that she has a family. They're kind of mentioned, and they are kind of immigrating to this new area, but we have no idea why. We have absolutely no idea why. We are not told why. And then there are people that are randomly coming up to her, saying things like, have you or someone you love been negatively affected by underregulated apex activity? Call Ratliff and Ratcliffe, attorneys at law. No explanation as to what apex activity is or why it should be regulated. So far, New Delos doesn't seem like the Apex haven Mom had always made it out to be. Between the ads and the anti-Apex campaigners stationed outside the bathroom, it started to seem like the last place I'd want to be if I was harboring super secret abilities. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. This I'm very excited about this book because there was no explanation. Every other book that I've read so far has explained as it went. It's like the author really wanted you to like know what they were thinking. And so like because of that, there's a lot of telling and not showing, but this one is like, here, we're gonna drop this like little apex activity, and we're like, what is that? Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's fine. That is how you start a book. Last one, and then I promise I will be done in this location and we'll move. I finished the first chapter of Speechless and Octantan. First off, I thought that Autumn Chaos had a long first chapter. This one was 21 pages. This is giving Katniss and Gale at the beginning of Hunger Games. It's giving Chosen One. My intrigue level is not really there, unfortunately. There was this like interesting moment with like when you found out that Geb was the chosen one, and like that he did have magic and stuff, and the moment was like really tense. Like we were ramping up, and then it just kind of ended, and then we were like, hours later she woke up, and I don't know, like it was just like an immediate like anticlimactic moment. My intrigue level right now is a 3 out of 10 for this one. But we'll see, like maybe the intrigue level does not equate to great book, and this one will just absolutely surprise me. But on first chapter vibes alone, my intrigue level is pretty low. Alright, see, I told you I would come to a new spot. I'll probably finish the rest of them here because I only have a couple left. But I read the first chapter of Nightingale Prince, and while my intrigue level is not there, I am excited to read this one. I did not realize that this was a cozy book. Chapter 1, they were making cookies. It was adorable. There's a little bit of like foreshadowing, like one little like offhanded comment that he said about another character that I assume will be brought up later on, but for the most part this was such a cozy little cute scene, and it was a nice way to like introduce everybody into the world. It was giving Legends of the Lattes, which like I'm not mad about, honestly. So intrigue level, I think we have to sit it at like a 5 out of 10. It's not a like suspenseful book like some of these other ones are, but it's just like the coziness that kind of draws you in, if that makes sense. So like, don't let the low rating on this one fool you. It's funny because I would have probably put Hearts Lost and Speechless as pretty comp titles just based on their synopsis and like age range, but I don't think that that's anywhere close to correct. So I started Hearts Lost and I actually enjoy this, but in the like introduction it does say that there is sexual content in this one, so that makes me think that it's not YA, or if at the very least it's like upper YA, but likely more hinging on the new adult. But there's a couple of quotes that I want to pull out because like this shows you my intrigue level. There's a portal world, so if for anyone doing our fantasy and needed that portal world that doesn't have an actual door, this one I think will work for that. Not sure 100% because I don't know if there's a door yet, but I don't think there is. It says, we have a portal to the kingdom of the summer, the same murderous kingdom that destroyed armies and then partnered with the void's damned black dragon to march every single one of our surviving civilians into the lands below. That sentence carries so much in there, and yet like you actually don't know what's going on. Like you can picture it, but it feels like a really quick flashback scene. And like I can picture it like if this was a visual media, I could picture that like flashing back into like some sort of montage. And then we go a little bit further down the page and she says, you opened a portal to the kingdom that tried to destroy us and you're not even sure if it opens both ways. And then like, that's pretty much the end of the chapter. So like my intrigue level is peak. It's peaked. I think we go 10 out of 10 for this one too. That feels weird, but I think we do. I think we do. Couldn't have been more different than Speechless. And also I have to point out that the first chapter is only 6 pages long. So like it did all of that intrigue in such a short period. I'm hooked, I'm here. All right, we're back here at the desk. I'm on sprints. So I finished The Fires of Time. Are we gonna have another 10 out of 10? I think we are. This is absolutely incredible. This is a book where the first chapter was 21 pages, or like the prologue and the first chapter. But I didn't notice because it flowed so well and I was just hooked. I don't like talking about the writing style and I don't really want to bring up writing style or prose in this video, but I have to with this one. This is how chapter 1 starts, okay? Raftengrad is what you get if you kill a city and leave its bones to bleach in the sun. That is perfection. That is fantastic. I am obsessed. Okay? Like, what? But then if you're just adding, like, if you are talking about strictly intrigue, there is so much, like, little tiny hints that are dropped, little things that are just brought in that are so fantastic. It says, in olden days before Kaya was born, you could have left the city by ship. But since the death of the All-Queen, the sea was impassable. Why is the sea impassable? Why? What is making it that way? Is it because of politics? Is it because of climate change? Or what? That's literally all this sentence says. And then kind of going back to just how beautiful the writing style of this book is. In the prologue, there's a sentence that says, the sky is always changing. The one that you look on now, you have never seen before. Yet it is always the sky. In a way, the formless certainty is written within every person without letters or sound.
I'm obsessed with this book. I might have bought a physical copy of this book.
Anyway, okay, 10 out of 10. Let's keep going. All right, next up we have Lady of Ravensmere by Mary Kennedy. This one I'm not as intrigued by. I do think that there's an audience for this book. for sure. I think that if you liked last year, if you liked Scales and Sensibility or Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons, I think based on first chapters, this feels very similar. It's very Regency inspired. It's very romance heavy already. Like, it's already talking about marriage and weddings and like, you know, finding a husband. And I think the setup of the world is done really well, as far as like, you really kind of know there's no white room syndrome. You know where the character is, you know what the character can see, that kind of thing. So I really appreciate that. But as far as intrigue level for me, we're sitting at about like a 4 out of 10. Not bad, specifically because this genre, this subgenre of fantasy, definitely leans more towards like the slow build up. So I don't want to like say that like 4 out of 10 is bad, right? It's just a different style of book and doesn't lean into it being a, like, you know, jump off into the deep end kind of book. And that's okay. We'll see how it progresses. All right, lastly, we have Openumbra. This is a book I know nothing about. I don't know much about any of it, but I specifically left this one for the end because I knew the least of it. The cover was very intriguing, so it automatically wins points for that. But as far as like what this book is about, went in completely blind. And honestly, like, even after reading the synopsis, I'm still completely confused, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. But I read the introduction and the first chapter. In the very introduction, it says that it is recited by a scribe, and it's basically like talking about the lore and this like fairy tale type story. Fairy tale is the wrong word, but like, I can't think of what the word is right now. I'm bad with words. Why do you subscribe to me? But anyway, they're talking about dragons. So this book has dragons. So like, immediate up in intrigue, right? The first chapter did not do a whole lot to like add to the intrigue level, but it didn't necessarily take away from it. It was very much an introduction chapter. It was very short, only a couple of pages. So it didn't quite give me like a lot, but like, there are dragons. Like, I want to see more dragons, right? In chapter 1, we kind of come on to some sort of a funeral. There is a lot of mention of this casket, and our main character is kind of watching this play out. Obviously, you know, there's some emotion there, but we have no idea who's in the casket or what. So I guess we have a little bit of intrigue level there. So I'm definitely intrigued enough to continue on, obviously. But like, it's making me want to continue on and read the next chapter. So I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10 for intrigue, and we will continue on. All right, we read all 10. We read all 10 chapters, plus some prologues and some intros and things like that. And there were some surprises, for sure. Like I said, I was not expecting the Nightingale Prince to be cozy, or at least as cozy. I mean, I guess the synopsis kind of leans towards a cozier type story, but I was not expecting chapter 1 to be them baking cookies. I'm also super impressed that 3 of the books have an intrigue level of 10 out of 10. I was definitely expecting to be intrigued by a lot of these books, but to have a, oh my god, I cannot wait to continue reading this book for 3 of them is impressive, especially because like Beta is definitely a YA book. It definitely reads YA, as it kind of, I don't know, it was giving me Spider-Man vibes. Like, it's giving me like year 1 of Spider-Man when he finally learns out he's a superhero, but really he just wants to go to school. That's what it's giving. And then The Fires of Time is definitely a book that like the writing style just draws you in and wants you to just keep reading and keep diving further and deeper into that book. So I am impressed. With all that said, I will be doing a vlog here in a couple of weeks where I will be reading to completion a few of these books. I don't know how many I will be doing. It kind of just depends on how long the vlog gets. But I am trying to have all 10 of these read and reviewed by the end of July so that I can give my semi-finalists to Cassidy. And then Cassidy will be reading the book that I choose, as well as the other people that are on our team. They're all choosing their winner, and Cassidy will be reading those winners and be picking a finalist from there. I will have everyone that is on Cassidy's team, as well as obviously Cassidy, linked in the description below, because you definitely want to be following them and checking them out, because we're all going to be like reviewing these books, doing vlogs and things like that on them, as well as like Instagram posts, because Deb and Rachel are primarily on Instagram. but I highly encourage you guys to check them out below. Let me know down in the comments below which one of these 10 you are most intrigued by after hearing my initial thoughts on them. That is all I have for you today. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there is a little button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.